Hi and welcome to episode number 24 of an Italian knitting podcast. My name is Francesca. I am an Italian knitter. I live in the northeast of Italy with my husband, our daughter and our cat. I'm a software engineer. I work from home, and today you might be hearing a little bit of construction noises from the background. They've stopped right now, so we might get lucky and you might not hear anything, or you might hear some construction noises. Hopefully they're not too distracting, so we'll see. Anyway, since the weather here where I live in Italy does not feel like autumn nor winter in any way, I am 100% sweating already in this wool sweater that I put on for you. So this is the plan. We're gonna just dive into finished objects and talk about this specific one so that I can then remove it off of my body and replace it with something more appropriate for the temperature. Let's do it. This is the Diane Sweater by Kolibri by Johanna. It was a test knit. Test knit has been over for a while now, at least a couple of weeks. And the pattern is out for you to purchase if you want to. This is a DK weight sweater with a mock neck, I think it's how you call this type of neck. I am actually not sure. And it has 2x2 ribbing on the collar, the cuffs, and also the bottom ribbing. The bottom part of the sweater also features a split hem, which I've actually not done ever, or at least in a while. I, for some reason, don't typically go for it. I don't find it typically in patterns in the actual instructions, and I never actually substitute the bottom ribbing so that it becomes a split hem. I don't know if I love it yet, but I don't know, when I saw it, I was excited to give it a go and see if I do like the fit. And I think it does give it a little bit more of a polished, more stylish look compared to have like a boxy sweater with like a straight hem and nothing going on there. So I feel like I am enjoying the look of it. And when I say I'm enjoying it, I just mean when I wore it for pictures after I finished the sweater and blocked it, because I've not been able to wear this here at all. We are in September, I think end of September almost, and it's still not time for me to wear this here. So I've not actually wore it in real life, but so we'll see, I don't know. Anyway, I do like the look of the split hem in the finished objects pictures that I've taken, so I'm hopeful that I will enjoy it in real life too. The yarn is Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in electric blue. As you can tell, I think you would have guessed the name of this colorway because it's exactly an electric blue. And I do quite like Double Sunday. I've used it before for another sweater and maybe an accessory, which I don't remember. But it does feel very, very soft against your skin. So that's why I chose it for like a high neck type of garment. I think it fits very well, not fits, it feels very well against even your more sensitive areas like your neck. I don't think I would have been able to do this in a mohair, as in I don't think I would have want to wear mohair so close to my neck as a garment. I'm not sure. So I just didn't do it. I went for this Double Sunday. This is Merino and it's very soft. The downside is that I think it will peel a little bit. We'll see. For now, since I've not worn it, it didn't peel. So I cannot give you any helpful, useful information in that regard yet, but I will in the future. And I made my sleeves the usual length. So just like they don't cover my entire hand or anything. I think the pattern kind of encourages you to go a little bit farther, and I think some of the testers versions were so like cozy and comfortable looking, and I think they did a little bit of a longer sleeve. I just went for a regular one so that I can use my hands to do things and not worrying about having to roll the hems or anything like that, but you do you. Of course, this is not of course, but this is a top-down sweater, so you can adjust length of the body, of the sleeves, however you want to, so you do you. For the split hem, I actually did a little modification. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know what you're seeing right now, so I don't know if you can tell, but I'll insert pictures if this is not clear. I made my bottom hem in the front shorter than the back. So this is not 100% symmetrical. See that the bottom goes down a little bit farther. In the pattern, you find a symmetrical split hem. I just made mine longer in the back and shorter in the front. I don't know, I felt like it would look cuter, I don't know. Also, after splitting, I tried it on. It seems like the front was gonna be too long if I made it as long as the back, so I just opted to shorten the front one a little bit. The interesting thing, or one of the interesting things about this sweater, is that it does not have short rows in the front to make the back of the sweater higher than the front, so to make it more comfortable. And the reason is that I think this sweater is targeted toward more of a beginner or intermediate audience. It wants to appeal to wider audience of knitters, and so it's like has like simple construction, and the fact that short rows are not there is part of that reason, so that it's easy and like super easy to work. And what the pattern says is to do the collar, and then you just go with the raglan increases and the things that are part of the sweater, but there are no short rows back and forth that sometimes kind of slow the process down, especially at the beginning. Short rows do, I think, improve the fit most times of a sweater, but they're kind of fiddly to do and kind of annoying. So I'm interested to see if this sweater, the fit, is actually worse than the fit of a sweater with short rows. It might be okay, I don't know. I'm so interested to wear it. The kind of predicted downside of no short rows is that this front will ride up. So like if you do things with your arms and live your life, it's possible that this kind of front part might come up and kind of, I don't know, be up right there up in your neck. But I think for this sweater, since it has a high collar anyway, it's already up there in your neck. So it might be good, and the no short rows might just be okay, and just don't make the fit any worse or anything like that. I will keep you posted. The bind off, I did just the regular bind off in patterns, in a 2x2 pattern, with no like tips or tricks to making it extra stretchy. I just did it a regular bind off, and I think it provided a very clean look, especially for the bottom ribbing. And for the cuffs, they're wide enough as cuffs that I don't need to make the edge, the bind off, any extra stretchy. I feel like sometimes when you have tighter sleeves that maybe look like this, you do want the bind off to be extra stretchy, otherwise you won't be able to fit your hand in there. But since the cuff was already quite big, the sleeve in general is a little bit roomy, so I didn't need any extra stretch. I just did the regular bind off in pattern, so knit the knits, purl the purl, and just bind off one stitch every time. And as I said, this sweater is top down, so I did start the the cast on here at the collar, and I tried a couple of different ones, and the long tail cast on didn't fly for me, in the sense that the edge didn't look very polished. I talked about this last episode, but the edge looked a little bit amateur. Is that the word that I'm looking for? I don't know. I feel like you start a sweater, you want it to look very good. Also because it was a test knit, so I wanted to make it justice. And so I frogged and switched to an old Norwegian cast on, which is fairly simple. I think it takes the same time to cast on as like a long tail cast on, so nothing more time consuming or super complicated, but I think it looks more polished. That's it. I think I deserved to take off this sweater and stop sweating. Cool, let's do it. Much better. And I don't think I have anything else to say. I don't think I have anything else to say about this sweater. Maybe here you can see the bottom hem, the fact that it's shorter in the front. Yeah, it has beautiful raglan increases that also have ribbing. I do quite like this feature. I've seen it on other patterns as well. And so it seems like maybe it's something that it's in trend. It's a trend. And yeah, I do like it. It feels very sturdy. It has quite like a thick gauge, like it's a sweater that's not particularly airy or anything like that. It feels like it would keep you very warm during autumn and winter. And I think I noticed this because I am so used to knit with mohair, so like a fingering strand and a mohair strand together. And that fabric, the fabric that gets produced with that combination, is much airier, much lighter, like the same sweater with DK weight yarn and with fingering plus mohair weighs less, like it's lighter in terms of actual weight, but also in the way the fabric feels, right? Like I don't know, it's a bit airier. Is that the word? But anyway, so I do notice that this is a little bit more like, has a weight to it. It feels like a sweater. And I do quite enjoy that idea, so we'll see. Cool, let's move on. The finished object that replaced the Diane sweater on my body right now is a Tolsta Tee fingering weight edition by the Crea Bea or Rebecca Claw. And this is more towards the summer garment style situation. It's knitted in Sandnes Garn Pure Silk. It's knitted in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, apologies. And I've used Pure Silk many times before for camisole and t-shirts, and it is one of my favorites, and no wonder that you hear lots of people using and talking about Pure Silk. So yeah, I've recommended it before, nothing new. And the pattern is the Tolsta Tee pattern that Rebecca put out a few months ago, maybe before the summer, and I knitted the regular worsted weight, DK weight version of this t-shirt, but this is the fingering weight version. So it's knitted with a tighter gauge, meant to be knit with fingering weight yarn. So like much lighter, feels very, very wearable. I would picture myself in the springtime or even summer, those kind of colder days in summer. I feel like this is very comfortable, very easy to wear. It's just a t-shirt, like you don't have to pair it in a certain way with the rest of your wardrobe. You can just wear jeans like I'm doing right now and you're good. Shorts, jeans, whatever you'd like. And I usually, for t-shirts like the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit, I use 4 bowls of the Pure Silk, or like 3.5, but for this one I've used 3, so slightly less. So a little bit less yarn that I would usually use because the gauge is a little bit wider, like the fabric is a little bit more open than a Cumulus Tee or another summer tee that I've knit in the past. And also I think because I made it slightly shorter. Is it? I mean, it's not cropped, but I feel like compared to my lengths of compared to my lengths of t-shirts that I usually do, this is slightly cropped. I don't know if that's actually true. That's what I believe. Sleeves are a regular length. They're not elbow length. they're kind of in there. The modification that I've done is that I knit this at a slightly denser gauge than the pattern, so it's still a very open one, but I think I'm off by 1 stitch per 10 centimeters or so. So mine is slightly thicker of a gauge, not by much, and I also did twisted rib in all the places. I think this would look very good with a split hem as well. So like here, like a little split hem. However, I couldn't be bothered because twisted rib, if you do split hem, it means that you need to knit back and forth, and so it means that you would have to purl through the back loop of stitches, and this girl was not gonna do that. So I just did a regular hem, so that the twisted rib just means that you need to twist only your knits and do regular purls, which is what you want to do. You don't want to twist your purls. I guess you do you. I've done a sweater with twisted purls to achieve a full twisted rib so that it looks twisted if you look from the inside as well, and it wasn't super enjoyable. So no. I will make more Tolsta Tees next summer, spring and summer, and I think if Rebecca doesn't come out with a Tolsta sweater over the colder season, I'll just make my Tolsta sweater by just knitting this t-shirt style, but longer sleeves and a longer body. And I do quite like the fact that with the same pattern, so buying one pattern, you do get 2 versions, which have 2 different gauges, so you can do with different yarns. So, for example, for my possible future sweater, Tolsta sweater, I could just follow the version of the pattern that has that wider gauge, that worsted DK gauge, and just make it into a sweater. Perfect, thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, and if you don't know about this pattern for some reason, if you look it up on Instagram or Ravelry, you'll find lots of modifications, eyelets, picot edges, and all the things, because people have tried different modification and adjustments encouraged by the designer. So go there and look it up. I just am a lazy knitter, and I went for the super basic modification, which is just kind of adjusting the ribbing, but you could do different things with your project. Cool. And I did also finally finished my blanket. It's not needed yet. Again, in this temperature, I told you before, we don't need a blanket, but I did finish it. This is a very simple garter blanket, as in it's just garter stitch, so knits back and forth every time, forever and ever. And it was my in the dark type project. So when I bring my daughter to bed, sometimes I sit there and knit while she tells me about her day, or like talks about things and tries to fall asleep. And so one thing that I can easily do in the dark or like low light situations is knit, like the actual knit stitch. So back and forth, back and forth. This is what came out. The only thing I've done other than knitting back and forth is I slipped the last stitch of each row purlwise, and it just makes it a slightly cleaner edge. Do you see anything? A slightly cleaner edge without the bumps. If you don't slip your last stitch or first stitch, so you don't slip the stitch at the edge, you end up with a little bit of a bumpy edge, which is perfectly fine. I've done many scarves or mini blankets in the past that were just with the bumpy edge, and it's totally fine. But yeah, I don't know, it's a simple modification. And this is Cascade 220 Superwash, and it's in the color Evening Haze. I had originally purchased this yarn for a sweater, and I then realized that I do not like to knit with superwash yarn that is this thick. This is a worsted weight yarn, and the fact that it's superwash makes it quite like, I don't know, hefty. I don't know, I didn't enjoy the feeling on my hands of superwash but like very thick. I do like superwash fingering weight yarn that's like goes by and it's lovely, but I don't know, such like big yarn and it's superwash, it didn't feel very good on my hands. And so I didn't want to go through having to shape the collar, the increases, the sleeve, the cuffs. So I just used it for a simple blanket, so I could just knit the back and forth. So I was using a yarn that I wasn't super enjoying, but it was very, very simple and mindless. So it went by with no problems. And just for the records, I have then tried the non-superwash Cascade 220, and I love that so much more, but also just so much in general. So if you're looking for Cascade 220 and you might not love superwash yarns, so if you're like, I don't know if I do love that, just go for the non-superwash version, which I think I find it much nicer to work with. That said, I will embrace the benefits of superwash, so I might wash this in the wash, like in the washing machine, in case my daughter spills something, if I spill something, if my cat does something to it. It might be easier to take care of. So I'm trying to embrace that. And I mentioned my cat, but I think he had already kind of, I don't know, pulled a few threads, and I don't know if I will use it as a blanket for my sofa, which was my initial idea. I might actually use it for my daughter's bed. It's quite like a big blanket. It will definitely cover her entire bed. She's 3 years old, so like still a small child. And so this will fit her bed with no problem, but it could also fit me on the sofa. So I don't know, I don't have to decide, I guess. I could just use it for however I'd like. I absolutely have nothing more to say other than I do not currently have another garter stitch super simple project on my needles. I do have a couple of mindless projects, but I don't think I could do that in the absolute dark. So I might have to find myself a replacement for this relaxing knitting experience. It's very soft and smells very good too, so I do quite like it. I have other two finished objects, and then we're wrapping up this section. The two objects are exactly the same pattern, so I'll grab them and talk about them at the same time. 1 and 2. These are Italian summer scarves, as in the pattern that I followed is an Italian summer scarf, which is a very simple, easy to knit scarf with garter stitch and eyelets. You've seen this before probably here. I've talked about this. And I named it an Italian summer scarf because I do knit my first few samples with yarn that was summer appropriate. They were like drapey and nice, just a little scarf for your spring and summer nights. However, I've decided that why not knitting a few with just regular winter type yarn, as in like wool and warmer fibers, and so that's what I've done. This is for my daughter actually. This is knit with one single ball of DK weight yarn. This is Basic Merino by Katia. It is, I would say, DK weight yarn. Actually, this is half acrylic and half wool. I had bought one ball of this yarn to swatch for a sweater for my daughter, and I do like the fact that it had some acrylic. It was superwash, so for my daughter, I think it's easier for her to wear if she can kind of mess it up in terms of like spilling food or getting it dirty. If I know that I can easily wash it, I think that feels better. So I had bought it originally for a sweater for her to just like do a little gauge swatch, and I never got around to buy more yarn to make a sweater in that specific fiber. So I just used the single ball of DK to make a little scarf. I think I could still wear this as an adult. I shall show you. I could wear it with like single wrap, is it the way to say? Like one single around my neck, like so. I think I could also just maybe do the points here in the front or tucked in. So I could still wear this as an adult with one single ball of yarn, but I had my daughter in mind when I was knitting this, and I think she would really like it. Also, pink is her favorite color, so she would enjoy this more than me for sure. And I've not gifted this to her yet because there's no point, like it's too hot, but I will kind of wrap it up for her at some point this autumn and give it to her as a little gift. And the companion, I mean it's not companion, but same pattern, different yarn. It's another Italian summer scarf in a non-summer yarn, and this is actually an adult size scarf, as in it's plenty long to give it a little wrap. You could wear it like so. You could wear it like wrap it another time and make it tighter, whatever you'd like. You can also wear it open if it's too hot like it is today. Let me do that. And this is actually knitted in WoolDreamers Mota, which is more of a rusticy yarn. Is it rusticy? Not rustic, more of like a little, not super smooth yarn. And if you're familiar with Knitting for Olive heavy merino, it kind of feels the same way. This is maybe a little bit more rustic actually. This is the Knitting for Olive heavy merino. It kind of, they both have the same sponginess and heftiness, and they're kind of like, but yeah, I don't know, more rustic, very lightweight, both of them. Yeah, they feel very lofty. I think lofty is the word. So, and this yarn came to me from my friend Julia at Wool Done. She has a shop, beautiful shop in Bologna, and she sent me a couple of different colors because I requested them. These are the other two colors that I got, and this was a little bit of a test in the sense that I wanted to see if this specific yarn would work for this scarf and for the class workshop that I'm teaching tomorrow in Bologna, where I'll be teaching how to read patterns that are written in English, but also I'll be kind of teaching or guiding people through knitting this Italian summer scarf. But since it's still warm, but we're going to autumn and summer, I wanted to give people the option to knit that with more of a woolly yarn, and so this was a test. I don't think the average person would love this yarn against their neck. I personally don't think I love it. I would much wear something that's softer and that I don't feel that much against my neck. I feel like this doesn't itch me, but I do feel it, and I don't love that. So I don't think we will suggest people to use this yarn at the workshop tomorrow. However, I'm sure that Julia will love this scarf. I'm not sure she'll be using this for the shop, just to have it there so that people can see how the yarn feels like, or if she'll use it herself, we'll see. This will come with me tomorrow. This will go to her. So it came to me as a ball of yarn, and I'm bringing back in the form of a scarf, and I think I'll bring back this yarn as well. I think if you're a person that likes unspun yarn, that likes plotolopi, that likes more rustic yarn, you will love this. I've seen lots of different projects in Ravelry that looked amazing, and so that's why I wanted to try it. But for me specifically, I don't think I would go for this. I think for a cardigan would be a great choice because it doesn't touch your neck as much. It's maybe an open cardigan with no buttons, something that is just very cozy, almost like a jacket. I think it would work well for me, but I don't have plans to knit that right now, so I'll bring this back. The colors though are beautiful, very fall-like. Yeah, so these were my last two finished objects, and as I mentioned, this is the pattern that we'll discuss tomorrow at the workshop, and I really hope people will enjoy spending time like together and knitting on something. I am so excited, so looking forward to it. But this also concludes the finished objects section. Works in progress. Originally, this was very scary, but it would have been fine. This was originally the pattern that I wanted to suggest for people at the workshop. However, I think the Italian summer scarf has a little bit more interest to discuss things together. There are increases, decreases, it goes a little bit faster, there's less yarn involved, so the price of the workshop and the kit that comes with the workshop was going to be, I think, more affordable. And so this thing that I'm showing you, I was working on it to present at the workshop, and when we decided to just use the scarf for the workshop, I kind of stopped working on this, but it's meant to be a double wrapped Italian autumn cowl. I think that's a name. It is a piece of fabric that more or less looks like a scarf, not quite long as a scarf because you don't need more than this length. And then I am going to be sewing, attaching the two edges together, and that will be the double wrapped cowl that you can wrap around yourself. I said sewing and then I kind of backtrack, because what I will personally do is I will be doing like a bind off while picking up stitches from the start edge, the cast on edge, and in that way I will make a circle of fabric. But one thing that people can do is to just bind off and then afterwards sew the two edges together. And this is a pattern that does not exist yet. It is in a draft document on my laptop, but I plan to finish it up and put it up on Ravelry as a free download like I did for my scarf, and that's it. It's, I think, like easier knit because it just, there's no increases, decreases, it's just the rectangle. So it's even more mindless than the scarf, which I do love. I bought some yarn for a second sample, so I will knit it again just for fun, and I'll put up a pattern. It has eyelets, it has garter stitch, what's not to love? It has an I-cord edge all around, that's built in, you don't need to go back and do an I-cord afterwards. I would never do it to you, trust me, that's it. It's knit actually quite chunky needles. These are US 9 or 5.5 millimeters, so that it's quite airy and good for autumn, so should go by quite fast. The yarn that I'm knitting this sample with is Filcolana Arwetta, and I'm holding two strands together to make it into like a DK weight yarn. The second sample that I'll be starting tonight is in a DK weight yarn. I'll show it to you after if you want to. So that you can either do with two strands of fingering or one strand of DK. You could also just adjust the gauge and just make it into whatever yarn you want, because again, it's not a garment that needs to fit your body in a certain way. So you could just cast on some stitches and go, and it doesn't have to be the same number of stitches I casted on. You can make it different sizes. You could also make it so that it wraps around your neck only once, so like so you don't do the extra half that I made, and you can do just like a single wrap. I should do a sample with like single wrap. Maybe I will. Should be quite fast as well. That's it. I really should have finished this up. I think last episode it was more or less the same level of completion. I just kind of set it aside to work on other things. I have another more active in progress project, and it's a hat. I don't know if you can tell that it's a hat from just this. What does it seem like? I don't know. No, I mean, it seems like it's the beginning of a hat. It is in a very dark blue, and the yarn is actually cashmere. So fancy. It's recycled cashmere from Campolmi Filati, which is a shop in Florence, kind of center of Italy. I went there for a work trip and I got me some yarn souvenirs. This was one of them. It was in a cone. I wound it up as like a hand wound bowl, like very quickly, because I wanted to weight it. I wanted to put it on a small scale and see how much it was. It was more or less 85 grams or so. When the cone is inside the yarn, unless you know how much the cone weighs, you don't know what the weight of the yarn, because it doesn't say on the cone typically. So I just had to remove it from the cone, which was totally okay. So I just made it into a bowl. And with the yardage or like meterage that I had, I thought, and I still think, I can make like a hat, adult sized, like my size, so like maybe smallest, like regular adult. I should be able to make a hat with this quantity of yarn. I would say this is a sport weight. So I just looked on Purl Soho website for a hat that I could make with sport weight yarn, and the lovely ribbed hat came up for me, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a ribbed hat. This is 2x2 ribbing. It's killing my hands a little bit because knit, purl, purl, knit, purl, purl forever. I don't know, my hands are not enjoying that much. So I can do a few rows, maybe a couple of centimeters, and then I'm like, bye, let's pick up something else. I'm used to all knit type of relaxing projects, and so this one was a little bit like tougher on my hands, so I'm just going very slow, not very slow. I'm going at a leisurely pace. The cashmere content, or just the cashmere, yeah, makes it so soft. So I am not 100% sure if the size is good for me or if it's too tight. It feels good, like it doesn't feel particularly tight, and I'm assuming when I wash it and block it, it will relax even more. So I'm confident that this will fit me. If it doesn't fit me, I'll gift it to someone that has the appropriate size head for this hat. I'm not sure if I will wear it like so, like without a folded brim, or if I will fold the brim and wear it this way and like just picture the rest of the hat. I think it depends how much farther this amount of yarn will take me. If I can go long enough where I can fold the hem, the brim, then I will do so. But if I don't have enough yarn, I could just make it into like a tube without the folding. Yeah, and again, cashmere feels very good. It doesn't feel very smooth, as in like the fiber, not fiber, yeah, the thread. You won't be able to see anything, huh? How do I do this? Like so? The fiber, the thread, it's not smooth. It's not like, it's a little bit bumpy. I don't know, I'm assuming it's the fact that it's recycled. They cannot make it into a super smooth thread of yarn, and so it's a little bit like bumpy, and it did split on me once while I was doing the cast on. I don't know, I think my daughter tugged on the project and it kind of came apart. So I had like one strand and it came apart. And I think maybe we can do this test of like you can easily split this with your hands, and I'm assuming that's because it's recycled, so the integrity of the yarn or the fiber is not the same as, I think, like a first generation cashmere or fiber or anything. So I'm not sure if that's the reason, but just, so I think the bottom line is just don't tag this project, don't play tug of war with your daughter and you'll be fine. This is my first hat in a very long time. Last hat that I made was a very long time ago and it was too big for me. It was a yellow hat and it was very big. I still have it, but I don't know, the size was a little bit off. So I do hope that this one will fit me well. I do like wearing hats. So if I realize that I do like knitting hats as well and they fit me well, I think this will open up a new mindless projects category for me. I'm not one to do knitted socks. I could be the person who typically enjoys knitting hats. They kind of feel like they're just tubes and you can go and you're done. I'm hopeful. I should be able to finish this way before I actually need a hat. So then I'll store it away and it'll be ready for me when I do need a hat to go with my bike somewhere, and it'll be a good day. I'll be very proud of past Francesca for knitting a hat for herself in a cashmere yarn. Goals. Those were slightly active projects. I do also retrieved a couple of projects from hibernation where they've spent their summer. One is a half and half triangle wrap, which is a giant schlanket, like blanket slash wrap slash shawl in fingering weight yarn. You've seen this before, I'm sure, and it has a lovely color combination. I'm doing a blue version. I've done a gray and yellow, mustard yellow version before. This is a very mindless project. It's almost something that I can do in the dark. There are short rows in there to knit these beautiful kind of ridge in the middle. You are working with short rows. Every row you do a short row, and that in the dark, it's slightly tricky, but it can be done. I've done it. So this, I think, is the project that will now replace my aforementioned garter blanket when I'm bringing my daughter to sleep. So I'll try to do this. The other project that came out from hibernation recently is Field Day Cardigan by Arwetta. This is a cardigan slash jacket, so it's a thicker cardigan, more oversized than a regular cardigan probably, but sorry for the clicking needles. But yeah, I pictured myself in this cardigan jacket in my backyard. I don't live in a house with a backyard right now, but I will live in a house with a backyard in a few months, and this will be the perfect thing to put on to kind of walk outside. Woo. I am very excited, and yeah, I actually started knitting this together with my friend Erin from the Kuria Knits podcast. She's finished hers a long time ago. I think she overdyed the cardigan, so she's done plenty things with the cardigan, and I have not even finished anything. Not even the bottom edge, the sleeve, nothing. I didn't even close the back part of the collar. So it's time for me to pick it back up. It doesn't even have mohair, so it's not particularly warm for end of September. Like I can knit on this, no problem. Like it's not that I'm sweating just by looking at it. I'm kind of a little bit, but not too much. So I should be able to start picking this back up and finish it up in a couple of weeks, maybe, so that it's ready for October, November, upcoming months. And this is the famous Cascade 220 non-superwash. So these are the cousins. Cascade 220, superwash, non-superwash. I do love the non-superwash version way more, so if I were to buy it again, I would just go with this one. And those were the actual projects. So good job surviving this sequence of all the things that I worked on over the past month. It has been a while since I filmed one of these episodes, so I have accumulated a lot of things. So if you're thinking, wow, that's a good amount of projects, a lot of projects, please know that this is, I think, more than a month of working on knitting stuff. If you want to stick around, I have a couple of acquisitions. One is quite fun, actually. I have the most bright orange yarn combo that has ever existed. This is Knitting for Olive, Hokkaido. The sweater quantity is actually more than a sweater for me. Can you see anything? It's actually more than a sweater for me, so I could do like a cabled sweater, oversized sweater, or like a sweater and a hat, or a sweater and a scarf, I don't know. And this yarn actually comes to me from Sara. Sara on Instagram reached out to me because I posted a couple of stories mentioning that I wanted some bright yarn to knit with, and she was like, hi, in Italian though, ciao. And she was like, oh, I do have some lovely orange yarn, but it doesn't work very well for my skin color. Would you like it? Would you like me to send it to you at a discounted price? Because she had bought it, and so I think didn't want me to pay the full price that I would pay from Knitting for Olive website. I was like, yes, please give it to me. And so here we are. So I do have yarn that it's this bright of an orange, and I do wanted actually to buy this same exact colorway, so it just was very lucky of me to find someone who wanted to part and wanted me to try this. Again, I do not know what I would like to knit. I think either like a very, very big cozy sweater with a split hem. Maybe, I don't know, I actually don't know. If you have suggestions, let me know. I don't think I'm the person who would like to knit a cabled sweater. I am the person who would like to wear a cabled sweater, but I don't think I'd like to knit one. It seems like a very long process, and you need to pay a lot of attention while knitting cables, so I don't think that will happen. I think it'll just be a stockinette something. And the other acquisition is Borgo de Pazzi, which is a brand based in Italy, in Florence. It's called Amore, super soft cashmere. And it's recycled merino and cashmere. What's the content? It's 10% cashmere, 45 wool, and a lot of other like not supernatural bits in there, but it feels very, very soft. And with 5 of these balls of DK weight yarn, I will do my second sample of the Italian autumn cowl. So instead of 2 strands of fingering, I'll do just 1 strand of DK, and I'll be basking in this beautiful bottle green goodness and wrap it around my neck and go bike or walk around. I think this type of yarn, it feels very good against my skin, so I'm excited, and I do like I do love green, as you know, so perfect color choice. If you want to know, this is color 45. And that's it. This is where we part ways. You go on with your day, and I do put away things that I've been throwing on the floor for the past hour or so. I hope you're gonna have a good rest of your day, a good weekend, a good week, a good month. Thank you for sticking around. I'm actually very glad. I don't think we got any construction noises in the end, or did we? Maybe I was just so focused into the knitting and the filming that I just zoned out. I don't know, but hopefully you were hearing me fine and that you'll have a good rest of your day. Bye, friends.